it's okay to be single.
You want to get married?
You know, I don't know. At the end of the day, it's not that I have foreclosed that possibility, but I shouldn't have to explain that choice.
For years, Lindsey Graham has guarded his private life with almost impenetrable secrecy. But what happens behind closed doors has sparked intense curiosity. Away from the cameras, the speeches, and the political spotlight, there's a place where Graham retreats from public scrutiny. It's a residence few have seen, shared with someone rarely discussed and carefully kept out of headlines. Now, attention is turning to where Lindsey Graham truly lives, and why it has remained such a mystery. Initially, Lindsey Olin Graham lived in the small town of Central South Carolina, a community that, at the time, reflected the quiet rhythms of rural American life. He grew up in a modest, working-class household with his parents and younger sister Darlene. The Graham family's home was not a conventional house, but a single room located behind the family business, a combination restaurant, bar, pool hall, and liquor store known to locals as the Sanitary Cafe. This unusual setup meant that Graham's formative years were spent in close proximity to the bustle of the family business, observing firsthand the demands of running a small enterprise while navigating the dynamics of a lively, sometimes chaotic, environment. The dual nature of their living arrangement, part home, part business, instilled in Graham an early understanding of responsibility, work ethic, and the importance of community ties. Growing up in such close quarters with both family and customers, he witnessed interactions that spanned the spectrum of human behavior, from camaraderie and laughter to conflict and negotiation, shaping his early understanding of people and relationships. Tragedy struck during his college years when Graham's parents passed away within roughly 15 months of each other, leaving him with the heavy responsibility of caring for his then 13-year-old sister, Darlene. This sudden shift thrust him into a role that demanded maturity, resilience, and a deep sense of familial duty. Balancing college obligations while raising a younger sibling tested his capacity for leadership, empathy, and practical problem-solving, experiences that would profoundly shape his sense of home, family, and personal accountability. During the 1970s, Lindsey Graham's life was defined by a balancing act between education, family responsibility, and the early formation of his career ambitions. While pursuing both his undergraduate degree, B.A., 1977, and later his law degree, J.D., 1981, at the University of South Carolina in Columbia, Graham primarily resided in student accommodations near campus. These residences were typical of college life at the time, modest apartments or shared housing that facilitated access to classes, libraries, and campus life. Despite this independence, his weekends were frequently spent commuting back to his hometown of Central South Carolina, where he continued to care for his younger sister Darlene after the loss of their parents. This dual existence instilled in Graham a sense of discipline, responsibility, and the ability to juggle multiple obligations from a young age, blending academic focus with familial duty. After completing law school, Graham transitioned from the civilian student world to military service, commissioning into the U.S. Air Force under the Judge Advocate General's JAG Corps. His residences during this period were determined entirely by his service assignments, reflecting the transient and structured lifestyle of a military officer. Notably, from 1984 to 1988, he was stationed at Rhein-Main Air Base in Germany, where he lived in military housing provided on or near the base. During this time, Graham served as both a military prosecutor and defense attorney, navigating the complexities of military law while living in quarters designed for short-term occupancy rather than long-term domestic stability. After completing his active duty service in the U.S. Air Force in 1989, Lindsey Graham returned to his native South Carolina, transitioning from a structured military environment to civilian life while simultaneously beginning his professional legal career. During this period, Graham established his residence in the local region, living in modest housing that reflected both his practical needs and his early professional status. These homes were likely simple, functional, and consistent with the lifestyle of a young attorney entering public service, emphasizing proximity to work over long-term domestic luxury. Graham's legal career during these years focused on public service within his community. He served as assistant county attorney for Oconee County, a role that required him to navigate a range of municipal legal issues, from civil litigation to local government policy. At the same time, he held the position of city attorney for his hometown of Central South Carolina, providing legal guidance for local ordinances and administrative matters. These positions not only grounded him in the intricacies of local governance, but also reinforced a lifestyle that blended professional responsibility with community engagement. Living locally allowed Graham to maintain close personal ties, particularly important as he continued his commitment to family and small-town connections. Parallel to his civilian legal work, Graham also maintained a connection to the military through service in the South Carolina Air National Guard from 1989 to 1995. While specific details of his housing during this time are not publicly documented, it is likely that his arrangements reflected the flexible, temporary nature of National Guard service, which may have included periods of military residential assignments or commuting from his civilian home to fulfill service obligations. This dual life, balancing civilian legal responsibilities with ongoing military commitments, further shaped his organizational skills, sense of duty, and adaptability. Following his election to the U.S. House of Representatives in 1994 and later to the Senate in 2002, Lindsey Graham established Seneca, South Carolina, as his primary civilian residence, a decision reflecting both personal preference and strategic considerations. Unlike the often ostentatious homes of many national politicians, Graham chose a ranch-style property in a quiet suburban neighborhood, emphasizing stability and privacy over public display. This home, purchased decades ago for a fraction of its current estimated value of around $1 million, sits amid scenic areas near Lake Keowee and the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains, offering natural beauty, recreational opportunities, and a peaceful retreat from the high-pressure environment of Washington, D.C. The choice of a modest, long-term residence demonstrates Graham's consistent desire to maintain a grounded lifestyle within a small-town setting, highlighting his connection to the community he represents. Graham has lived in this Seneca home for over 20 years, making it the central hub of his life outside the political sphere. It is here that he returns between congressional sessions and Senate votes, balancing the demands of national office with the rhythms of home and local community life. The property is not only a personal retreat, but also a symbol of continuity and rootedness, contrasting sharply with the impermanent assignment-driven housing of his earlier military and student years. Within Seneca, Graham has established deep social ties. He is an active member of Corinth Baptist Church, participating in the spiritual and civic life of the community. His engagement reflects a broader connection to the region, extending beyond mere residency to encompass social, cultural, and religious involvement, reinforcing his public image as a senator who remains close to his constituents. In addition to his long-standing primary residence in Seneca, South Carolina, Lindsey Graham maintains a secondary home in Washington, D.C., a necessity for his decades-long tenure in Congress and the U.S. Senate. Like most members of Congress, Graham's D.C. residence is designed to accommodate the demands of a legislator's schedule, particularly during weeks when the Senate is in session or committee hearings require his presence. Public records indicate that he purchased a townhouse in the Capitol in 1997, measuring approximately 1,254 square feet. Though modest in size compared to some of the more luxurious townhouses in the city, the property provides practical, functional living quarters that allow Graham to navigate the rigors of federal service efficiently while maintaining a private, manageable space. This townhouse has served as Graham's de facto work-week home for more than 2 decades. Its location in the nation's capital positions him conveniently near the U.S. Capitol, Senate offices, and key federal agencies, facilitating participation in legislative debates, votes, and meetings with constituents, lobbyists, and fellow lawmakers. Financial disclosures indicate that Graham holds some mortgage debt on the property, a common aspect of ownership in Washington, D.C., where real estate prices are high and properties often appreciate over time. The townhouse, therefore, represents not only a residence but also a practical investment and a cornerstone of his personal real estate holdings, which also include his primary home in Seneca and a small parcel of undeveloped land in South Carolina. Beyond its utilitarian purpose, the D.C. townhouse reflects the dual life structure typical of senior lawmakers, who must balance obligations in their home states with the relentless pace of the nation's capital. While Seneca offers Graham stability, community, and a private retreat, the D.C. residence enables him to maintain professional efficiency and accessibility in a high-pressure political environment. It is here that he prepares for legislative debates, hosts colleagues for informal discussions, and briefly steps away from the more rural, serene life of South Carolina. Over decades, this secondary home has become an integral part of Graham's routine, providing continuity, functionality, and a tangible link between his legislative work and his personal life. In addition to his primary ranch-style residence in Seneca, Lindsey Graham maintains a small parcel of undeveloped land in the same region, an asset that appears modest in value according to his public financial disclosures, but carries significance beyond mere monetary worth. While the property does not contain a home or serve as a residential space, it represents Graham's sustained investment in his longtime hometown and underscores his enduring connection to upstate South Carolina. Ownership of land, even in its undeveloped form, is often a tangible way for public figures to demonstrate roots in a community, and Graham's parcel reinforces his identity as a local resident deeply tied to the region he has represented in Congress and the Senate for decades. The undeveloped nature of the property allows for flexibility, whether as a long-term investment, a potential recreational space, or a means of preserving personal privacy and connection to the natural surroundings of the Seneca area. Situated near his primary home, the land complements the scenic qualities of his ranch-style residence, which is already proximate to Lake Kiowee and the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains. Together, these properties form a personal geographic cluster that anchors Graham in a familiar, comfortable environment, far removed from the intensity of Washington, D.C., yet close enough to remain engaged in his community and local affairs. Moreover, the land reflects a pattern of practical, long-term planning in Graham's personal real estate portfolio. Unlike some politicians who favor lavish secondary properties, Graham's holdings emphasize stability, modesty, and continuity. The undeveloped parcel mirrors his broader lifestyle approach, a preference for grounding himself in his roots, maintaining a tangible link to the community that shaped him, and balancing his public life with private connections to his home region. It also subtly signals to constituents that his ties to Seneca extend beyond his primary residence, embedding him physically and symbolically in the area he represents. Throughout his adult life, Lindsey Graham has maintained a singular personal lifestyle. He has never married, does not have children, and lives without a romantic partner. Unlike many public figures whose private lives often involve long-term domestic arrangements or blended households, Graham has consistently lived independently, whether in student housing during his university years, military quarters during active duty, or his later homes in Seneca, South Carolina, and Washington, D.C. This independence has been a defining characteristic of his personal life, allowing him to focus on professional obligations without the domestic responsibilities that accompany marriage or raising a family. Graham has openly addressed his bachelor status with a mix of humor and candid self-reflection. In interviews, he has remarked that he never found the right girl, or the right girl was smart enough not to have time for me, acknowledging both personal circumstance and the demands of a public career that can make sustaining romantic relationships challenging. This remark illustrates a pragmatic awareness of his lifestyle choices, as well as a willingness to embrace the realities of his commitments to politics and public service. It also suggests that his decision, or perhaps circumstance, To remain single is intertwined with the intensive schedule and responsibilities associated with decades of military and political life. Across the various residences Graham has occupied, there is no verifiable evidence of him living with a domestic partner or engaging in a long-term cohabitation arrangement. From the modest student apartments near the University of South Carolina, to military housing at Rhine-Main Air Base in Germany, to his ranch-style home in Seneca and townhouse in Washington, D.C., his living arrangements reflect continuity in independence. Even his holdings in Seneca, including a small, undeveloped parcel of land, serve personal or strategic purposes rather than accommodating family or romantic partners. Graham's status as a lifelong bachelor has become an integral, if understated, aspect of his public persona. It underscores a life organized around career, duty, and civic responsibility rather than traditional family structures. His self-contained lifestyle, shaped by years of military service and long-term legislative commitments, demonstrates a pattern of personal discipline and autonomy. What do you think about Lindsey Graham? Leave us your comments in the section below. We hope you have found this helpful video. Don't forget to leave a like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you like it. Thank you for watching this, and see you in the next videos. Goodbye.